Welcome to Family Peace Initiative's Curriculum Blips. In this podcast, we provide fast and easy resources for facilitators using the FPI suite of curricula to help you prepare before stepping into a group room. Whether you're brand new to BIP facilitation or using drive time to refresh yourself on familiar concepts, these blips are intended to help you get in the right frame of mind as you head into group. You'll hear from seasoned staff and FPI curricula authors on the key concepts and goals of each lesson, as well as what to expect from group members in these conversations. Today we're starting Section 5 on Trust in Partnership. Steve Halley, co-founder and co-director of the Family Peace Initiative, guides us through what to expect in the first week of this section when walking group members through the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Let's hear from Steve.
The Trust in Partnership section is the 5th section of the curriculum. We put this in there because it's important to give people some alternatives of how they can make small changes in order to make positive gains on improving their relationships, of building trust, building integrity. There's really no better place to start than with John Gottman, who is kind of the guru of relationships and what makes relationships sing and what makes relationships crumble. His 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse and his book, 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, that he wrote with Nan Silverman, are really important reads for facilitators who are going to be doing this section of the curriculum. We start really with his point that it's not the big things that damage relationships. It's very rarely the huge affair or the drug addictions or the misspending of money. It's very rarely those things that really do the damage. Those are more symptoms that the damage has already occurred. And what his point is that the smaller kind of micro behaviors are the ones that really over the long term do the damage. And we try to illustrate that in my classes by telling the Venus de Milo story. And for those of you that don't know, the story is written in the appendix of the Professional Facilitator's Guide. It's really about the small chips that can be taken out of amazing works of art. And if you take 1 or 2 chips out of amazing, sculpture like the Venus de Milo, it may be unnoticeable. It might be something that crowds and tourists who are, passing by that beautiful work of art, they may not even notice. But as we take more and more chips out of the Venus de Milo, pretty soon people start scratching their head and wondering what happened to this piece of art. It doesn't look nearly as beautiful as it did. The more we take chips out, the more damaged it becomes. And I talk about that, if we were going to go take a chip out of the Venus de Milo at the Louvre Museum in Paris, I'm pretty sure that alarms would sound and guards with AK-47s would come running down the hallway, and the crowd would probably pounce on me if I was the one taking the chips out of this thing. And eventually they would throw me in a dark, dank Parisian prison. It would be an enormous event, probably making headlines around the world about this vandal that damages the Venus de Milo. And while that kind of enormous response would come from a small chip being taken out of that beautiful artwork, there's no response when we take small chips out of our relationships. There's no alarm sounding. There's no people running down the hall ready to intervene. It goes by completely unnoticed and unrecognized, including by the partners who are in the relationship together. And the small chips can be just little things like these side comments. Oh gosh, that was real stupid. Or what were you thinking? What's the matter with you? You always do that. And, I hate it when you do that. And all of these comments that we can make, these criticisms, every time you do that, you don't know what you're doing. These criticisms that take chips out of our relationships. Dr. Gottman explains that it's those constant chips and criticisms that really do the damage. Because looking at the 4 Horsemen, right, you have these criticisms that we give to our partners, and then the other partner maybe becomes defensive. And then the first partner becomes defensive again. And then suddenly there's this attack and defend, criticize and defend, criticize and defend. And if that goes on for a period of time, then you have stonewalling where one person shuts down and they're not talking, and pretty soon contempt is fed. Contempt is kind of the cancer that kills the relationship. And all of the group members can recognize contempt-filled relationships where people don't look at each other, people roll their eyes when their other partner is talking, people are avoiding their partner. Maybe there's this, reaching out to hold somebody's hand and the other partner just pulls their hand away. In bed, one partner curls up and the other partner just rolls over and turns their back. Those are evidence of contempt, and as that contempt grows, which Gottman calls the act of turning away from each other, is the evidence of the contempt. And the way to heal that is by turning towards each other, which is hard to do when contempt is really activated in the relationship. And so in the end of the Venus de Milo story, where we're talking about the chips that are coming out of the statue, we turn and ask the participants, what are your strategies for taking chips out of your relationships? What are your most common ways of doing that? And people will you can go around the room and people can talk about the way they criticize their partners. They're starting to recognize that behavior is extremely damaging to the relationship. And every time they offer this criticism or a chip out of their relationship, that they're working on destroying their relationship. The next couple of sections are really about the antidotes. So, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are the criticism, defense, stonewalling, and the contempt. And so the second section will be talking about, what are some antidotes for these 4 horsemen? How do we intervene and disrupt the pattern so that we can end the criticism but still express our feelings, our opinions, our thoughts about whatever matters are arising in relationships? All we're doing is asking people to identify ways that they criticize their partner. And we make the point, if you go around the cycle, right, if criticism, defense, Gottman makes it really clear that you do that one time with your partner. I criticize my partner gets defensive and criticizes me back. One time around that cycle, and it's like a 90% decrease in the chance of resolving a conflict in a healthy way. It's like almost a guarantee if you just go around one time that you're not going to get the resolution you're hoping for. And most of the people in the group say, oh my gosh, once it starts, it goes on and on and on. We go around that loop, 10 or 20 times. And by then it's pointless to try to solve anything. It's just a matter of walking away and then, forgetting that it ever happened and trying to move on with life. So we start with just that simple presentation of, the chips are damaging. The chips are damaging over time. It's very hard to repair things once too many chips have been taken out of the work of art of our relationship, right? That is most of our work of art, is our relationship with our partner. And then the upcoming sessions, we will talk about the antidotes and how you can actually do some simple things differently that can change the outcome of these moments in time where relationship gets damaged, to where at worst, nothing bad happens, and at best, really positive outcomes, and the relationship can be growing and people feeling more positive with each other, which is really what Gottman talks about, is developing the emotional bank account, which we'll talk about in the next blip or two coming up. So there you go with the 4 horsemen and the idea of the Venus de Milo story. There's other ways to stage that as well, and so don't feel like you have to use that story. But anything that communicates, it's the little things that do the most damage over time in the relationships. It's very rarely the big things that destroy the relationship. The big things are more the symptoms. So have a good week. And I hope your group goes well this week, and I will visit with you in the next curriculum blip coming up.
Thanks for preparing for your group with us today. If you have questions, stucks, or if there's a section of the curriculum you'd like to hear us explore in more detail, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at reception@familypeaceinitiative.com or submit a contact form on our website. Family Peace Initiative, working to serve our clients and community with compassion, integrity, and expertise.